everyone, my name is Visibility. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make a triangular alien artifact in Blender 2.8 using the Cycles engine. So, this tutorial will go over basic texturing and lighting, using text, emission shaders, basic sculpting, and basic modeling to create a scene. So to get started, we're going to delete our cube, hit Shift A, mesh, add a cylinder. So now we have our cylinder. Don't click off it and go down into add cylinder. Change our vertices to 3, and yeah, change vertices to 3, and now you can click off it and go into edit mode, and make sure you're in face select mode. Select this face, hit X and delete faces, and go down here to the bottom, hit X and delete faces. And now go out of edit mode and make sure this is selected. Click R on the keyboard, X, and 90. And now we have a little kind of triangle right here that's facing the right direction. So what we're going to do is we're going to model this into this triangular alien artifact and add a scene to it. So I just like using this tool because it kind of gives me more control over it. So I'm just going to scale it down here to about right there. Yeah, that looks good. So now we have this triangle right here. What we're going to do is we're going to go down here to modifiers, which is this little wrench icon. Click on it, and we're going to add a solidify modifier under generate. And just change the thickness a little bit. I'm going to change it to about there, which I think is pretty good. Maybe a little less. Yeah, that seems good. Go ahead and apply the modifier. And now that we have this, what we're going to do is we're going to hit tab, and now we're going to have you can see our triangle. So go into edge select mode, which is up here by edit mode, and shift click this edge, and this top edge. This is very important that you've done it with the solidify tool on, because if you don't have the solidify tool on, the bevel won't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to the right panel and click bevel. Now I'm actually going to full screen Blender. Now once we have bevel, we can just go ahead and position our cursor in the middle and just kind of bring our click and bring the mouse up. And what that's going to do is give us this nice kind of design in our triangle. So that's what we're going for. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back into edit mode, deselect everything, and go into face select. Select this face, and this face, and just drag it down, kind of what we did in the bevel. And you should have this, and just do something like this. Go down to insert faces right here, and just change the depth to a negative value to where it goes in. This is basically personal preference on how much you want it to go in. But you see, now we have this kind of cool little artifact kind of design, which is what I'm going for. So now that we have this design right here, we're going to add a plane. So Shift A, actually don't do it in edit mode, make sure you're out of edit mode, otherwise it'll parent it weirdly. Deselect everything, Shift A, mesh, plane. So now that we have our plane, we're going to R, X, 90. So now you have something like this, okay? So what you're going to do is add a Boolean modifier into the plane. Make sure the object is set for the cylinder, and make sure it's set on intersect. Go ahead and apply that Boolean, and hit tab, Control F, and right here it says fill. Click fill. So now you can see that we have this plane over in our triangle, which is good. We want that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to texture this plane. So go ahead and split your view over here, and go over here and click shader editor. And also, I forgot to mention, make sure your render engine is on Cycles. It's automatically on Eevee in 2.8. So once you have it on Cycles and everything, just click new. Now we have this principled BSDF. Go ahead and click on it, make sure it's the only thing selected, and click Control T. Now we have these 3 texture coordinates, and if you don't have these, then go into Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and just look up node wrangler and click check on this and save preferences. So I already have a texture that I want to use for this. So I'll link it in the description below, or you could, if you have like your own texture, you could use it. But I'm just gonna open it and go into my textures and open this. So now, if we look in the rendered mode, we see that it is absolutely nothing. The reason for that is a few things. One, we have this principal BSDF here. Now, we want this portal to give off light, and you can't really do that with this shader, so we're just gonna delete it. We're gonna shift A and add an emission shader. Put that right here. Take the color from your texture, put it in the color on emission, and emission to surface. So now if we go into render, we can see it's red, and it's kind of giving off light, not really. But the texture's not there. So why is that? Well, basically we have this set to UV. And what we're gonna want to do for that is go into tab, click U, and unwrap. So now if we go into rendered, we can see that our texture is here, which is good. We want our texture to be there. So that's all good. And now what I'm gonna want it to do is change some of the emission settings. So to get the full effect, what we're going to do is we're going to shift A, add a plane, put it down here a little bit just so we can see the reflections off of the portal itself. And we're going to go down here to this little world icon that says world, and under surface change this color to just solid black. So now if we go into rendered, we can see that, oh, also this light right here, delete it. So now the only light is coming from this portal, and it's giving off light, as you can see from the reflections down here, but it doesn't look very portal-y. So we're gonna give it a little bit more like kind of emission. So if I crank this up to 50, you can see that now it's extremely bright, and you might want to turn it down a little bit, maybe 40. Yeah, the 40 seems good. Maybe let's see how 25 looks. Personal preference, really. I'm gonna keep mine at about 30. Keep mine about 30. So that gives us a good kind of shine to it. Not shine, but you know what I mean. So now what I'm gonna do is model our actually I'm gonna assign a texture to this. So basically just make sure you clicked on this triangle and basically do the exact same things that we have done. Also, if it's not UV unwrapped already, then tab A U unwrap. And so now we have it selected. Just open up a texture. I'm gonna link all the textures that I used in the description. So I'm just gonna use a metal. You're not really gonna be able to see this texture in the render because of all like the light that's gonna be in the scene, but I just like having it because it's just better than an untextured object. So now if we shift A, and I'm just gonna add a point light real quick just to make sure the texture is actually applied. And as you can see, yes, the texture is applied, but it is very stretched out. And I'm not really gonna do anything about that just for the sake of this tutorial being shorter, and you won't really be able to see it, so it won't really matter in the final render. So what I'm gonna do now is add another plane. I probably shouldn't have deleted the other one. And I'm just gonna scale it up to about there. Now I'm gonna move this out to this side. Scale it up a little bit more. Scale it down a little bit. I don't know. But we can change it later. So anyway, what we're gonna want to do with this plane is go down here to add modifier and add a multi-resolution modifier and subdivide it about 5 to 6 times and hit tab N and select, oops, oh no, okay, so make sure you're on vertex select this vertex, this vertex, all 4 corners, basically. And turn the mean crease up. And now if I did that right, yep, now it's not a circle anymore. So just apply that, and you can go hit N again to close that. I'm just going to drag this over so we have a little bit more space. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here to object mode and go down to sculpt mode. So basically what this does is it lets you sculpt on the terrain, which is pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is go over to symmetry lock and turn off mirror on X. Now actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a multi-resolution surface again, subdivide it one more time, apply, and let's see if that made a difference. Yeah. So I just subdivided another time just so we could have a little bit more resolution in our sculpting. You don't have to do that, it just depends on how high quality you want your terrain to be. And basically also what we're going to want to do is just sculpt out a terrain. Not really a terrain, but also hit F to increase or decrease the size and strength of your brush. Not really a terrain, but just something to kind of have in the foreground and background of your scene. So I'm just gonna, sculpt it like this. This is the regular draw tool, by the way. If you somehow got confused, you shouldn't, but just in case. So just sculpt around a little bit in your kind of terrain kind of thing. And I'm gonna hit S to smooth it out a little bit. I'm also gonna go back, hit X to go back in the draw tool, hit Control, and then just remove some parts. Just kind of, making this look natural, well, semi-natural, really. And I kind of want to give it this, kind of crater-esque feel, which is kind of what I want to do. So that's what I'm kind of gonna do right here. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of detail. I'm not a good person at sculpting. I just do basic kind of stuff. So I'm gonna go back in X, decrease the size down here a little bit. Yeah, that's good. And I'm just gonna go back in object mode to apply it and just rotate this because, oh, no, not like that. I'm gonna rotate it right here, actually. Then let's see if the triangle fits, kind of. So I'm just gonna scale it up to about there. Yeah, that looks good. If I give this a subdivision surface, what happens? Okay. Alright, so now I've just smoothed out the mesh a little bit. And what I'm going to do is position this triangle. So I'm going to select the actual triangle itself and the plane. And I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. Rotate it back. Rotate it this way. Just to make it look like it kind of crashed in the place. Kind of, a little bit. Just position it wherever you want. Doesn't really matter, but I mean, yeah, it does matter a lot, actually. And I'm just gonna. Alright, so now that I have that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go select the plane again, select this plane, and go back into sculpt mode. I'm just gonna give it a little bit more. And since I subdivided it, my computer's kind of not really liking that. So you might suffer some problems. Just decrease your subdivisions. something else. I don't know. Could be something else. Okay. Okay. So now in object mode again. What we're going to do now is add the background. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to add yet another plane. Yeah, I know. RX90, and go back here, put it kind of back here, and just scale it up like, and we're gonna make it longer than it is wide, so just kind of like that. Actually, let's shrink it down just a little bit by hitting S. And so now we have this, and what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna go back over to our shader. What did I just do? Gonna go back over to our shader editor and a new texture. Control T on principled, and just open up this brick texture or any other texture. I'm just kind of going to like the side of like a brick building. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna open up this texture. I'm also going to tab U, unwrap it. And so now we should see is it has this brick texture behind it. Now I might add a little bit more detail to the side of that later, but I'm also gonna increase the brightness of this emission shader to 50 and see if that has any effect on our brick texture. Okay, yeah, that does have an effect on our brick texture. Good. I want it to. I want that brick texture to be very visible, so I'm gonna bring it in a little closer. I'm kind of going for the camera angle to be kind of right here. So see how it looks from right there. Yeah. I'm actually going to shrink the plane this way because you can see the texture was kind of stretched that way. So yeah. Now we have this brick texture. Now you could honestly just leave the brick texture at that, but we're not gonna do that. What we're gonna do is we're going to add a more maps. Now what maps do are basically the details in the image, and it gives it that realistic look. So the way we add maps is if you get your textures PBR. If you don't have PBR textures, this probably won't apply to you, but any kind of textures, bump maps, normal maps, anything. For mine, it's going to be normal maps, but just Shift D on this color, open your normal map texture by going into wherever your normal map is. Mine is right here, and then once we have this, turn a UV right here, vector, Shift A, add a normal map, make sure it's a normal map, not a normal, put the color into color, bring this back a little bit just so we have room, and normal into normal. And so also set right here to bricks normal to non-color data. So now what we should see is, yeah, you can see right there, it has a, you can see all through it, it has detail now. So you could increase this to like, let's say 5. Actually, that's probably a bit too much. So let's go 3. That might be a bit too much too. 2, maybe. Yeah, 2 seems good. So now we can see that we have actual like detail on our bricks, which looks pretty nice. And also what I'm gonna do, which isn't, I don't think it'll work as good for this scene, but it's just gonna give it accurate reflections and roughness. So I'm gonna add a roughness map, which is basically just Shift D on this, put it down here and open a roughness map. By going in here and opening my roughness map, and just putting this color into roughness and UV into vector. And so now we should see that we have an accurate, it didn't really change much, but it just kind of sets it for you so you don't have to, you know, like do it yourself. So also this is gonna be non-color data too. Yeah, so it took away that shine right there. It took away the shine down there, which it shouldn't have had. But now we have that, which it looks really cool. So I'm also going to add a little bit more detail, and by more detail I mean I'm going to shift D on this plane and just drag it over a little bit. And let's see, our thing is going to be right here. Our camera's going to be right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect everything, Shift A. Ooh, what did I just? Shift A down here and open add text. So now we have our text. We're going to get an RX90 just so it's facing straight up. Tab to edit it, backspace, and I'm just going to type in open. Oops. Open. And so now we have this, okay? Which is pretty good, okay? But I have this one font that I'll link in the description if I don't forget, but any kind of neon font, neon-esque font will do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my font settings, which is A right here, go into font, and I'm just going to open where my fonts are, which is in my Windows folder, fonts, and if I'm not wrong, it should be Marquee Moon. Yep, it is. So basically I'm going to size this up a little bit, and I'm going to extrude it a little bit by going down here. Is it down here? No, it's geometry, right above font. And I'm going to extrude it by 0.02. Now it's very sensitive, but that's what I'm just going to extrude it to. And I'm going to put this up here. Actually, I'm going to set the camera actually. So I'm just going to hit N, lock my camera to view. So now I'm in here. And I'm actually going to widen my field of view on the camera by going to camera and camera, just sensor, just widen my field of view a little bit. And then now that we have a sense of where everything's gonna be, we can drop our open sign down a little bit. And so now scale it up a little bit probably too. Yeah. So now we have our open sign right here. And I'm going to hit N and unlock the camera from view just so we don't accidentally like destroy it or something. Actually, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this plane. Well, actually, you don't have to. But I'm going to add a cube. And I'm going to bring it over here, kind of right near the exit sign or open sign. Put it right here, and I'm just gonna size it to where it kind of resembles a doorway, like a doorway for a building. So maybe like that. Maybe like that. Maybe a little wider. That's what I'm gonna do right there. And select this plane, and we're gonna add another Boolean modifier. And this time we're gonna set it to difference and put it on cube. So now if we did that right, if we delete our cube, we now have this hole. And what are we going to do with this hole? Okay, we're going to want to go into edit, preferences, add-ons, and look up Archipack and check it and save preferences, and now you should have this right here. Also, actually, I made this mistake. In Archipack, down here, click this arrow, and right here, preferences, render presets thumbs. If you don't do that, it just won't show any of the like previews of what you're putting in. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a window, and I'm going to use this 180 by 210 rail 2, and it actually is really good because it comes with all these like little arrows. So just position your window. The reason I'm using a window is because it looks almost like a door, and you can't really tell with this render. So you always can use it. You always can like actually model a window, but who wants to do that? I'm just gonna scale it up right here. Scale it up right. Oh no, that's not good. I'm gonna create a new window. Don't mind me. I'm just stupid. Oh. Technical difficulties. Okay. So now that we have this, what we're going to do is we're just going to delete these panels. So I don't really need them. So if we go into rendered view, actually what we're going to do is we're going to, in this open sign, we're going to go down here to material. That's text. Oh yeah. We're going to add material and change the surface to emission. And change the color to this kind of reddish pink. And then we can see if we click render, it now has this reddish pink glow on it, which is pretty cool, you know. You can always change it darker, which I'm probably gonna do actually. Yeah, like that. That's pretty cool. So now we have this pink, and you can see our doorway over there, which is pretty cool. And now what we're gonna do is add a ground texture. So all the textures I'm using are completely free to use on cc0textures.com. I'll link it in the description. I'm not sponsored by them, but please sponsor me. But it's a really cool site. I like getting all my textures. They have hundreds of PBR scan textures. They're really high quality. And if you guys want a tutorial, a complete tutorial on how to use PBR textures in Blender, then let me know. I'll be glad to make that. These tutorials are actually doing really well on my channel. So yeah, I'm always happy to make more. So what we're going to do is select our ground plane, add a new texture, and I'm going to move this, and Control T just like always. And over here in image texture, I'm going to open, and I actually have a ground texture, which I'm actually not sure which it is. So I have two ground textures. I'm not sure which ground. Alright, because I want the rock one. Okay, so it's ground 22. Yeah. So I'm just gonna open this real quick. So now, if also I don't know if this is UV unwrapped, which we probably should do. And just give it a little bit. Because it has to unwrap a ton of vertices, as you can see with the whole thing almost being highlighted orange. Okay, I'm sorry about that, but it took a little bit, but it's UV unwrapped now. And so now if we go out of edit mode and click Z and render, we should see that it has a ground texture now. Well, I mean, you can't really see it, but it's there, I think. Now would actually be a good time to save, because oops, caps lock's on. Because when it stopped responding, that kind of scared me, honestly. So just go ahead and save it. Are we good? Okay, we're good. So, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add a point light. I always want to do this just to see if my textures are actually working, which in this case they are. And basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a normal map. Haha, how'd you know? So I'm going to go out of rendered mode right now, and I'm going to go into our ground. I'm going to open our normal map, basically do the exact same thing by UV, vector, shift A, normal map, not normal, putting color into color, normal into normal, and putting it as non-color data. Now if we render it, we should see, yep, you can see now we have all this artificial bump, basically. And if we turn it up to say like 5, go into camera view, and if we delete this point light, yep, you can see that we now have our stuff, our ground texture. So it looks pretty cool. And what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to sculpt mode, and I'm just going to smooth out right here. Actually, I'm stupid because I didn't have the, wait, I did. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of, yeah, because I wanted to see, I wanted like the full triangle to be in full view because that's like the focus of the image. So now if we render it, or go into render view, we can see that we now have this triangle with an open sign, this door frame over here with a brick texture, and it's coming together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a few final touches. So, also gotta delete these, which I guess were left over from the window. So actually what I'm gonna do is I have to find the right texture to make sure that it is the right texture. Alright, yeah. So basically what I'm gonna do is, you guys might not have this on. If you don't have it on, you go on preferences, add-ons, and look up import images as planes and check it and save preferences. This is basically a really easy way to get PNG particles in your scene, and it's kind of a lazy tactic, but it looks good. So why model each individual particle when you can always just import a PNG? So I'm gonna go in my textures folder, and I have it saved under 12.png. So now we have this, and basically if we go into render view now, we can see that, oh yeah, I forgot to say this. We need to, when we import it, we need to make sure that we have it set on emit right here. Emit, and that's basically what we're going to do. Import images planes, and now if we render, we can see that we now have this kind of mist, which is pretty cool, you know? So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of, you know, just rotate it a little bit, put it down a little bit, and then I'm just gonna position this to where it looks like there's mist all around it, and you know, it's like it's all alien type and stuff, which was the focus of this image, the focus of this render. That's basically what I wanted it to be. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shift D, RZ90. I'm just gonna put it right here, and I'm just gonna position it right in front of the portal, kind of. And so now we have this. I'm actually going to start playing, and yeah. Alright, so now we have this. Oh, that was a voice crack. Okay, so now we have this image, which is pretty cool. What I want to do now is add a little bit of depth of field, which was in my last tutorial. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to click on our camera, go into this camera setting, and in viewport display, enable limits. If you guys want a full in-depth tutorial on how to do this, then you can go ahead and check my tutorial. And what we're going to do is, you can see we have this like clipping line right here, which is cool and all, but we don't want that. We want this little crosshair right here. And what we're going to want to do is, we are going to go over here and focus object, put it on our cylinder, which was our triangle. And so that's going to snap it to the origin point of our triangle. And if you have like a more intense object, you can just go distance and just change the distance. And so now if we click Z and rendered, we can see it did absolutely nothing. And the reason for that is we don't have our aperture size set. So I'm going to put it at 0.03. because that's a good starting point for it. And we can see, yeah, over here, maybe 0.04. Yeah, you can see now that we have this, and it's kind of blurred back here. It's kind of what I want to go for. And now, actually, there's this one modifier that I found that I didn't even know existed, actually. And it kind of gave it a cool look, and that is the wireframe thingy. And basically what that does is it wireframes it. And it kind of gives it this glass kind of look. Which I'm going to change the thickness to oh no. 0.05 maybe. Yeah. Alright, you can add that, but for this one, I'm not going to add it. Just because it kind of, you know, takes away from the thing. Also, what I'm going to do on this plane is the location. I'm going to change a little bit to right there. So that way we have more of a texture on it, basically. That makes sense. And that's basically it. That's basically all I wanted to cover in this tutorial. So now you guys have this cool looking alien crater type of deal going on right now, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So I'm gonna give this a quick render. Actually, I can show you guys some compositing. So I'm gonna give this a quick render, and I'm gonna show you guys how to composite your images. So it's like a 2-in-1 tutorial, guys. Yeah. So I'll be right back. Alright, guys. So this is the finished render. So I'm gonna do a little bit more compositing on it, and the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna go over here into this compositing tab. I'm actually going to switch out of rendered mode on this and go into compositing. So I'm going to enable use nodes and backdrop. And what that basically lets me do is if I control shift click on this, it brings up this little viewer node. And you can basically see it in the background, which is pretty cool. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add an RGB curves node and put it on here, and control shift on this. And I'm gonna bring the red midtones up a little. Well, actually, yeah, up a little bit. Shadows I'm gonna bring down a little bit, and that's basically it for that. And I'm gonna add a color balance. Put it in here. Control shift this, and I'm gonna put it on offset power. Actually, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm gonna add this and this, and basically if we look in here now, we can see everything's a lot like brighter and more vibrant. Just kind of what I want to do. Also, the last thing I'm going to add is a chromatic aberration effect, and that basically kind of gives it a better vibe. So look up distortion and go to lens distortion, add that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 0.1 distortion and a 0.1 dispersion. I'm going to put it on fit. And what that should do is, no, it didn't actually. Oh, I see. Okay, and now in this, we should see that we now have it kind of bulging out from right here. If we go through here, we can kind of see that it has a thing. And just mess around with that. Like, if I do 0.2 dispersion, see, it bulges it out even more. And that's kind of cool, I guess. If you want that, then you can, yeah, I'm actually gonna, you know, stick with that. Actually, that kind of looks cool. So there it is, render details. I rendered it in cycles, obviously. at 1920 by 1080, 100% render res, and I gave it 500 samples, which was good enough. If you have more lights, then you might need to increase the samples. But there we go. This was a pretty long tutorial. Hopefully you guys stayed through with it, and I tried to be as much on topic as I could, just to make it short enough. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I might go in later and change the brick texture to be smaller. It is a seamless texture, so you can just, like, you don't have to loop it. So yeah, that's the tutorial, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys liked it, smack the like button and thumb. Thanks guys for the support on my Blender tutorials. I'm still in no means a really good Blender artist, but I'm doing the best I can. I'm sharing what I've learned along the way in projects that I've made by myself and giving you guys tutorials. So thanks for the support, guys. My name is Visibility. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.